Hello and welcome back to Design Elements and Principles. All right, let's get rolling. But first, we got to take care of. I just want the reminders to go out there. So we are in our first. We have completed our first week. What does that mean for you? Session one. Everything is due for session one tonight at midnight. No April Fool's joke there. 4/1 at midnight. Everything's due. If you don't turn it in, what happens is the automatic U gets placed in for the assignments that aren't turned in. If you turn them in within the next week, you're starting at a level of a B. Also, depending on if it was a discussion. Some aren't discussions, some are. So make sure you do your discussions as well to get a better grade. Think of that as your extra credit when you can take it. And then what's going to happen is 7 more days from now, next week, Tuesday at midnight, session one disappears. And you can no longer make up that work. It's too far gone. So you do it now or never kind of deal. Like, get it in or don't turn it in. If you are in a bind with this, if you're thinking too much for me to handle, we are running this course in the summer as well. And we are running this course next fall. And we're running this course next spring. So if it happens to be that you're at a point in your life and it's a little bit much, it's okay. And you know what? Drop it now. And I think you get all your money back. Like, it all just gets erased out of the program. I could be like, it wasn't for me right now. I just need to take it in the summer. And that's perfectly fine. But from here on out, you're gonna have to start, keeping up. And it's not that much work. There's 4 assignments. And then eventually we'll get on to another longer term assignment. But it's all doable. People do it all the time. They can do it. So here today, session 1 line, all that homework is due today at midnight. Shape, which we covered off last week Thursday, will be due Thursday at midnight. And today, we're going to talk about form and the beauty of form. And for form, I'll go over the form lecture, talk about some things. I'll go over the research, the form project, the practice, and then about the textbook. So we're all clear on what is due, when, and how. So there you go. So everybody knows what's going on. Again, I will post this. Everything is posted. All the, everything is here is posted. And just so you know, we have this week, and then we have next week, and then you have spring break. And like, I don't assign anything new over spring break. So you will get a little bit of a break coming up already. Not like that last break we had for teachers in service wasn't a nice break. If you were taking a class at that time, it was kind of nice. Well, nice for you. I had to go to meetings, but all right, enough about me. Let's talk about form by quickly reviewing some other stuff. We started with a point. Then we connected a point to a point. Then over time, we were like, I want to connect more points to more points. But now we need to start thinking like, I have a shape here, or a form. So I went from point to line. I don't know, I did that so cruddy. Point to line to a plane. And this is a plane. But now we need to think about like how we're now transitioning. It's one to the other to the other. So I like to do this one. Is sometimes help illustrate this. And I don't know these. I should know this by heart. It's like X axis, Y axis, and Z axis. And so if you're kind of like to put this out there, it would be like, and then these get bigger as they come toward us, and then as they go smaller as they go further away, and bigger as they come to us. And we're creating a grid of space. And so we start to put things, where are they located in this space? And we start to create what we say is like a 3D image or form. And just by me, instead of drawing this plane or this shape, all I did was I tilted it and made a parallelogram. Two sides are parallel for my parallelogram. And then all I do is I'm pulling down. I should have started maybe with this square. That would have been cooler. But then I add another shape and another shape. And all I'm doing is visually referencing different points in space and connecting them with a line. And then if I did, I'm going to draw really light. And so now we created a form. And a form is to us is a visual representation of a 3D object. And so what we start doing is we start changing these items. So a square becomes a cube. I don't know if there's a proper name. Like a rectangle becomes, for all intents and purposes, I believe we just call it a cube again. We have a circle becomes a sphere. So this doesn't, you got to start adding some shading here or something that, like what is it? For this one, then we just kind of do this, like a little shadow. So a circle becomes a sphere. A triangle becomes one of two things, a pyramid or a cone. So we're just translating our shapes into what we would call a 3D name now. I don't know every name. You got any D&D players? You guys might be really good with your dice, naming your dice, decahedrons and all that kind of fun stuff. And I say that seriously, like I don't know them, and I know that dice are sometimes named after that. So that's where we're progressing, and that's again why we're taking it in these stances. Where do we start? We start with a point, then we make a line, we connect those 2 points in space, and then if we come back together and it creates some funky shape or whatever, that's a shape. They're all connected, and we can then quote unquote fill in that shape or fill in that plane, and then we're extending it into the 3D world. It's all a stepping process, one to another, to another, to another. So let's switch out. I just want to check. I want you guys get a preview too. Oh yeah, Thursday. And then we get out of that. We get to start talking about color. Color is a really rad one too. So let us open up our document here, and I'm going to zoom in. Let's start talking about it. And I've already cleared out some of this. And, I like to jokingly tell you guys this. Some of these are simpler than others, and I won't be talking for 40 minutes about form because to me, it's very related to shape. But let's get into it. And then I'll go over my examples. So form refers to the three-dimensional structure of an object. It includes length, width, and depth. Now, so we're talking about a third unit of measurement into what we are working on. When does that become important? Really kind of knowing as a designer, when you design for 3D objects, you're going to design tent graphics, or you do, I'm naming like things that I do, or you do a truck, like a food truck. You do a food truck, you need to do 6 sides of it. If you're in my Illustrator class as of recently, I added that Rubik's Cube kind of deal where like you're designing for 6 sides of something now. So you do have to know about every side of it. And then it helps when you're, generally when you're designing, if you want something to look better, knowing a little bit more about form and how these are structured and how to visually show them will make it more convincing. Because again, we are making illusions. It's a picture. It's a flat thing that we are trying to trick people into thinking is not flat. It's so much fun. Characteristics, these run the gamut. You know, the characteristics are the same as a plane, as a shape. It can be geometric, it can be organic, it can change in size, shape, complexity, all those kinds of things. I went through all this. The relationship with shape versus form. You know, it's either flat or it looks three-dimensional. It really isn't unless you physically build it. Which there is that sort of stuff out there. I don't have it, but there are really cool printing processes out there that when you get it, has a feel to it. Print press. Let me look it up. I think it's Offset. No. Offset printing, or something that's like flexograph printing, or it comes in the line of embossing. So I'm going to show this image real quick. So you can create parts for your graphic design that emboss, or with some of these types of printing, it's not the Offset. It is. I'm forgetting. Like sometimes letterpress printing, though that's a wrong image. This is that's showing a digital printer, like a inkjet printer, will put pressure on the paper and make the design feel good. Like you can touch the letters, it pushes in. And so there you can design actually a physical feeling into your designs if you want as well. So there's another area where form comes into play depending on how you want to do it. So it's not always just about, you know, making something look like it's a cube. So you think about that as you design as well. So adding more to the form. Role and composition, creating realism, of course. We like to represent it and it makes it feel real. How do you make something kind of more heartwarming to somebody? Tug at their heartstrings is kind of sometimes realism, where they're like, oh, I really like, you know, like I really like that. You know, it's a bird. It's a really nice looking bird in your design, and I really like that, and it visually looks good. It makes me feel good. Sometimes that helps, you know. Sometimes that works. It helps with spatial relationships between objects. So if you simply just draw distance in between things or show distance in between things, that spatial relationship shows something. Here's a circle. Here's another circle. Because of how I drew those and the spatial relationship between them, you could say that this circle is further away from us than this circle, because where I put it in the spatial relationship to show, you know, relative positions and distances. And then I could just like do this, like, you know, and there's a horizon, and then that like kind of like puts it in even better. So there you go, a little more information on that. Expressive potential. You can start adding textures and materiality to your designs then. And we'll get to that. There's a whole section that we'll be dealing with on texture in this class, and we're going to go over that. And but this helps that, you know, it show you a circle and we're not sure if it's a sphere or what it's made out of, but as soon as you start adding to that sphere and we start thinking like, oh, it's like, I feel like it looks like I don't know, that's supposed to be a shiny part, you know, and if it was all dark and that was a shiny part, you know, like two little shines, I don't know. But adding a material and texture helps add to the design, and we'll get to that over there. And then emotion and mood. We can, you know, soft flowing forms. If I have something, you think of that sense. And sometimes what we do as designers, it's not always, we think of it as abstracting. And then if I have a design and I'm just like, want to like cool, like organic, and it starts here and it gets bigger and it feels like it's coming out. And then maybe I just put some wispy lines in it. And I create like a sense of a river flowing through my piece. And then I have a headline and this, that, and the other. But I'm not like calling this out necessarily as a river, but it's got a form, it's got space to it. It starts kind of further back, comes forward, and that's going to evoke a mood. It's flowing water always makes me feel calm, you know, like stuff like that. So it can really work well with that. Shading, application shading, shadows, highlights are employed to create the illusion of volume. One I want to talk about that it's like the intro designer instructor's pet peeve is drop shadows. From today on, I will now question why you put a drop shadow on something. The computers in every program has an automatic way of adding a drop shadow. Just because it doesn't mean we should use it. It doesn't make sense to me in design unless you make it make sense in the design. Meaning there's no reason like what in sort of like real life needs to be looking like it's floating. Nothing floats in life unless you have a like light box or shadow box. So all those times that you're like, oh, and I'm gonna make it fancier, I'm gonna add a drop shadow. Actually, that makes it less fancy, and we will stop using drop shadows unless you can explain to me about why you want to use a drop shadow. So watch that, shadows and drop shadows. That's not a great way to make an illusion of that. Balance and harmony. Achieving a balance of forms within a design is essential for creating a visual harmony. These we're going to come back to again. This goes back. This will go to the future for principles of design and harmony when we talk about Gestalt and unity and harmony. So let's look at some cool examples and from old to new, new to old, and how we use it in design. So this first one, of course, so many things going on. We have beautiful like glass 3D text up here, right? Looks, it's kind of transparent. This one always gives me an illusion of transparency. Some people may say it's more chromy, but I feel like I can see through it. That's my perspective on it. It's very cool. It's got highlights. It's got depth. It's got like, you know, all these things bouncing off of it up there. Super rad. And then this war cross. And then they lined up these and they go across. If you can see war here, 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 you know, and they made a grid out of it. And so they're crossing over and they're blending and they have this lighting on it. And this is all done in a 3D program, which is fun. But sometimes you have to go outside the bounds and learn those 3D programs. And so jump on in, you know, like we don't teach full on 3D programs, but you can learn it. Over time, there's different programs. It's higher running. I think with our animation studios, you might be able to learn something there to help build out. But this is somebody who does this, and then they make newer programs. Illustrator can kind of do it. Photoshop can kind of do it. It does look a little wonk, and I don't think it can render as well. These are called renders. That computer sits there and figures out everything on how to get all the lighting correct and all that kind of stuff. So newer, not brand new, newer, still on the cusp. More ways to do this in your designs as we move forward, as computers get better. Then we have old school with a drop shadow. See that drop shadow there? Not needed. But this is so old school. I can't remember what year this movie came out, but this is what is called a fisheye lens effects. And you could do this in Photoshop in like one move. You take a picture and you like select it, and then you go to like literally like filters, or rounded, whatever. I don't know it because I don't use it. You know, like I don't do this. Have I done this? Of course I have. A lot of this stuff everybody kind of goes through and tries once in their life and then moves on. But we get a sense of form from this, you know? It's a fisheye lens. It's peering through your peek hole in your door. It's a lot of fun. This was pretty crazy at one point. Being able to do this and having this on a piece was like really crazy. Now you just have apps, right? You have an app that distorts faces immediately while people are talking. That's now revolutionary. This back in the day. I'm gonna go to, I got 12 screens going. Angus movie. 1995 is when this came out. So I attest to this. This was state of the art in 95 to do that. So, but it's a sense of form. I love the idea that they took the object and made the object the message. Beautifully done. It looks like a sucker, you know? I don't know what it says, but it looks like a sucker, and I'm sold on it. And it works. It works very well. And it made it so much better. They could have just, typed it out and just had, a boring, like, here it is, and it says practical, in it, just write it across, whatever it was, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, that's the message. Or we do it in this rad way, which makes you feel like you're kind of like, it is the object. The object is the message. It's a kind of a crazy back and forth. And there's more, as I talk about this, there is more psychology behind like a lot of what we do in graphic design to get people interested, to get them to feel something. We talk about the feeling. Ooh, I feel like, oh, what flavor is that? I want to feel it. I want to know about it. And it evokes an emotion. And as soon as a graphic designer can evoke emotion in their viewer, they're going to remember the piece. That's how you do it. You remember emotional pieces. And that's how we do it. We try to evoke emotion. I love this kind of like super flat yet dimensional pieces that there's just some barely hints of gradation, but it's in general just built out of shapes, and these shapes alone kind of give us the form, and then the beautiful offset circle in the background, highlighting Sydney. I think this is the name of the band, and this is the Opera House. But we don't need much, do we, to signify like that shape and form. When you look up your posters, I don't know if it's movie posters, but I'm gonna look at famous travel posters, images. I want to, like, we have like this stuff. Oh, let's hope it'll just be right up at the top. There you go. Again, here's form built out of flat. And it's beautifully done. And like the way they cut through, and it's coming through kind of like the blue of the flag. And it's just shapes developed to make us feel like there's form there. That's what I feel like happens here. And this is where like some very cool stuff can happen when you work with that and you think differently about how you want to show form. There's a billion ways to do everything in design, and just picking that way can change. If this wouldn't look as cool if it was all shiny like this. It would look, I think it would be too real. Like the idea of this is just a graphic. Then we can come onto this, where this is just literally playing with shapes again to trick the eye. There's nothing 3D about this except for the angle in which the letters were created, and then placed next to each other in a way that tricks us into thinking it looks 3D. It's not really 3D. It's just trickery. And there's programs out there to help you figure this out. Like, these need to be like this, and this needs to be like that. But like once you start building into these ideas and you set up a grid for yourself, you can kind of create anything and trick the eye. And the funny part with these, it's a square, right? And all they did was add like more square to it. And then it feels like a button. And that's all you do, You want something to look like a button? Add a little more button on two sides. And then it looks like you can push it. Put a B for button. But it's just very simple. Come in from an angle and with another angle. Here's the grid. Instead of being like on a page straight up and down, this would be flat, right? We took it and we just angled it like this. And then anytime you go up from one of those, we start to create a form. And that's all this is. It was a flat design that they changed like one parameter right here. This is all flat design. All that. And then they duplicated, made it look like buttons, gave it just a little bit of depth and changed this one right there. So lots of fun things you can do with form, trying to create the illusion of form, working with form. So the project, again, rinse and repeat as of now. And then we're going to change these up in a little bit. But I want you to find a book cover, a movie poster, an album cover from anywhere in time that shows a great sense of form. All right? We're talking form here. And you do it in a presentation. Again, as I've shown, switch out to this. Right now, I think the easiest one to do it in is Google Slides, new, Google Slide, blank presentation. Everybody has access to this right now. You pick a cool, this is where you could go, I'm going to spend a couple of extra minutes on this project. And then you go Google Slides form. You might get the wrong thing. Oh, not formats. Form. Does it know what I mean by that? No. Dimension. No. I'm not using the Google Slides 3D. Now I gotta try 3D. And see if there's a template out there for you. Like, dig around. This is a good one. Again, we're going to be adding images just like you did. There's no examples anymore. You've done this now once at least. Turn in your homework to have it done once. Watch those videos on how I did it. And you're just placing the images, making sure that it says, book cover, movie poster, album cover. One image. You can do 3 images per page, 1 image per page. This is just, and the process here is to get you to look at work, lots of work from everywhere around the world. Let's see some different ones. You can be from anywhere. 3 examples, kind of go through that process and do it. We're going to do this rinse and repeat for the semester until we start building these in different programs. But right now, use PowerPoint, use Google Slides, kind of keep it easy on yourself and work forward. Is there any questions about doing this part of this assignment? All right, thank you for somebody speaking up. Thank you. But yeah, so this is just repeat. Again, with any assignment, use the studio session project review. I'll check it. You know what I check for? I'll check for spelling errors, like certain stuff, like, certain stuff with like, oh, I spelled book wrong. I missed an O, like I'll check your work and let you know what's going on with it. All right. The design form project. Not 6 this time, only 3. But I want you, what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you, is 3 compositions only using black, 50% gray, and white to make the artboard appear to have form. So we're going to be working in those boxes again, but you're only going to have 3 of them because this one's a little bit more difficult. Going to require some thinking, maybe a little bit more, if you haven't delved into Illustrator yet, a little bit more of a pulling, trying to do stuff. I'll go over that. And I want you to, play around and make it seem like the square has something going on it that may allude to dimension. Again, a solid black can be used, a solid 50% gray can be used, and a solid white can be used. No colors, no gradients. If you're itching to get in the color, just wait till Thursday. That's where we're going to go. So let's look at this. And then I'm going to download it like just you would. You go to where your downloads are. You double click on it. It'll open in Adobe Illustrator. As I have talked about, you do need Adobe Illustrator. You do need Adobe InDesign in order to complete this class. You can get it through the student subscription form, which is in the announcements. It was in letters that was sent to you. There's links. If you need another link, just hit me up. I'll send you another link. But you will need to have these programs in order to progress because they are the graphic design programs that we need. If you are unable to access those programs, we have them here on campus. And you just come down to campus. You can work. You work today. You can work on Tuesdays and Thursdays with me, Mondays and Wednesdays with Craig Smallish in a different room, or in the all week in the MATC computer lab, where they have six stations dedicated just to the graphic design department, which have these programs available for you to use. So you do not need to purchase anything. You just need to come down to campus, and we supply it all for you on campus. So just stating that if you need it, we have it. Come on down. Come on down and work. Now, here's my first form composition. It's literally 2 shapes. Now, again, I've created examples turn off. Make sure you turn those off. And when you're working, make sure you work in your artwork here area, okay? Things are locked that should be locked, but make sure your artwork goes here. I've seen a couple people who mistakenly have started to work in the margin. Don't work there. It won't show up. So when I explain that you're working in the wrong layer, that's what I mean. Layers are very important to learn in all of the programs that we use. They separate out different elements within your design and helps keep your designs organized. The way to think about layers is pieces of glass. This lowest layer here is a piece of glass that has some stuff on it, right? It has these 3 boxes, and these boxes are what we call locked. I have these locked. You can't move them. You have to unlock them. You can figure out how to do that. Great. But you don't really want to. You don't want to move them around. Then I have another piece of glass here. And this piece of glass has a big white box on it with openings. This piece, so this piece is placed on top of this piece, which then allows you that when you draw or you work on this piece, the background stuff doesn't show up. Oh, let's do a color that you could see. Now I did that, and because I drew on your artwork here, anything that went beyond the box does not show up because I have this white cover, which on the layer above. Then the layer above that, I have the text. So it's just another piece of glass on top of that. And then I have my artwork, which you turn off, and then the margin, which is something we'll learn about in week 4 when we talk about layout design. So that's coming. We'll talk about what a margin is, but a margin is a clear area. Here, nothing important can go past the margin, as it might screw up your design. All right, so creating form. I would start with shapes. Rectangle, ellipse tool, polygon tool. Now remember, when we make stuff, I always have my hand on shift. See that shift? You hold down shift to constrain and make a square. Now, how do you make a square seem like something else? There are tons of ways. Let's see if this is one. I can shorten, if I grab this one, that's turning. My favorite is to use the direct select tool and just grab one edge and start moving that edge. But if I move 2 edges, it may not work as well. The other thing, so work with shapes. However you want to design it. But I want this area to look like there's something happening here that is 3D. Here's a walkway to a doorway. It is literally a shape and a shape. These 2 shapes. So to reenact this, but I want you to be original, so I'm just going to reenact mine, is I took a shape. Now I have everything on here as it should be. But what you can do is, I want that black. Well, no, I'll keep this. I have that there. I'm actually going to put your artwork here. No, I'm not. Turn that off and I'll work with your artwork here. All right. I draw my rectangle and it's 50% gray. If I want it black, I'll go to here and click on this one right here, black. If I want it 50% gray, it is this middle one right here. See where I'm going? And you can double check it by clicking on this palette and seeing that the K is at 50%. To give you an idea of what this stands for, there's CMYK. These 4 colors in print, meaning a physical printed copy, can create with halftones what we call the visible spectrum of color. You can get any color out of C, which stands for cyan, M magenta, Y is for yellow, and K is for black. And that's how we create every color for printing. RGB is very similar, but it deals with light. And we'll talk more about that. You'll learn more about that in the color section on Thursday. So I have my gray box, and I just created a box. Now I'm going to create another box below it. All right. And for me, I'm going to make sure that my box is set perfectly on those corners. Now, I can use 3 shades: white, 50% gray, and black. I'm going to use black. I'm going to change this to black right there. And then I'm going to use my direct select tool. And I'm just going to grab a corner. I'm going to hold down shift. And just bring that to meet up with that edge. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to grab this anchor and hold down shift and drag it to that edge. I'm going to make sure it's perfect. Again, with everything else, things lock in. And there we go. I have form here. You want to see something weird? Let's do this. What if I did this? I don't know if that works without another form here. You know what I mean? So what if we did black behind there? And now I'm just having fun. Now I want this box, but I want it behind everything. So I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Now I want this object to be black. Black. And then now I need to find out why it's not showing up. Object, arrange, bring front. Object, arrange, bring the front. All right, well, that works. So that's a way around some of this. Like, where did my stuff go? Well, all you need to do is rearrange it. Find where it is on your artboard, where your piece is. So now here, I have simply created another black piece in there. And it now looks maybe like that's an opening door into a dark room. What if I change this to the 50% gray? Now, this is the other thing I highly suggest you do, is play around. Don't just come up with the one idea and call it quits. Keep playing with your one idea. Try to change things. Try to move things. See if they look better here or there, this way or that. So the main tools is you're going to be using shape tool. You can use pen tool if you want to use, kind of create something yourself. I highly suggest you use the pen tool. I've seen some amazing things created out there from students at this level already. I don't want to give away too many things. It's too much fun. So keep it simple. You can just use shapes. You can use the pen tool to help create your shapes. Use the arrange. There's several ways to arrange. Object, arrange. You can use the quick keys here. I highly suggest you use quick keys. You can rearrange stuff by sliding down here as well and arrange. And it has another one down here. I usually go to where it's closer, so I don't have to move my hand as much. And I want you to create 3 of your very own compositions that make this square seem like it's got depth. Are there any questions about creating depth with white, 50% gray, and black? All right, cool. It should be fun. Should be fun. All right. Final one, design practice. We're going to download our master working file, just as you would from anybody else. You get a file, it comes down. Now, this is in Illustrator. We switch back and forth. I think for the most part, I think there might be one double up. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder. Again, for a Mac user, you double click. For PC users, you right click and hit extract all. I have the links, which you're going to need to know about, and then your Milton Glaser. So let's double click on Milton Glaser, and it's going to open up. Now, as I zoom out, I notice I have text, I have a title, I have his photo, but I'm missing all the examples. You need to get the examples, place them, and size them. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to lock the title, I'm going to lock the photo, I'm going to lock the body copy just by clicking on those. And I'm going to make sure examples is highlighted. And I'm going to go to File, Place. I'm going to go to my Milton Glaser folder, the links, and I'm going to grab everything but the MG photo, and this Milton Glaser 01. No, I need that one. Well, I'm going to grab these first 3, 1, 2, and 3. Just 1, 2, and 3. And you can either, you don't have to have this clicked, but you can click link if you want. The differentiation between clicking link and not clicking link is what it will do is will embed your image into the file, which creates a larger working file, which in today's world isn't so bad. But in general, I like to link it because the files will work quicker on a computer if it's not embedded, meaning it's not part of the design file itself. There are times when you will need to make sure that it's part of the design file, and other parts when you don't. When I do these projects, I have to embed them unless I have the links available for you. So I'm going to link it and hit place, and then you get this. So you can see, and I can't point to it, but see there's 1/3. That means that I have 3 images kind of here, and I haven't done anything yet. I'm just moving, and they won't pop up until I click. And I'm going to click once. I'm going to click twice. Oops, I did that one bad. I'm going to click twice, and I'm going to click a third time. And there are my images. Now, they're way too big, so we have to scale these images. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag and grab them all. I'm going to go to a corner, and this is the #1 rule to know for designing in Illustrator and InDesign. I'm going to hold down the Shift key before I start dragging it because I want to constrain the image. By constrain, I want to keep the image the size it is, meaning the proportions. I would never, ever, 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 ever just grab and start to smush. All right? We, as designers, will hold down Shift to make sure that that image is as exact to the original as need be. We do that with photos. We do that with text. We do it with example images. We hold down the Shift key whenever we resize anything. If you're not already holding down the Shift key every time you resize something, start to do it. You should have one hand on your mouse, one hand hovering over your keyboard for quick keys, copy, paste, Shift to hold things in line. If I want to move this and I want to move it in a perfect line, I hold down Shift. I want to move it up in a perfect line, I hold down Shift. I want to resize it, I hold down Shift. I joked with somebody the other day, and I was like, I'm surprised my Shift key still works. I'm going to hold down Shift when I resize that, and then I'm going to move it over because there's a little bit of gap there. Milton Glaser, person who designed the I Heart New York. And I'm holding down Shift, and I'm waiting for it to click in to this image here. These should be the same, right? There it goes. Now this one's behind, this is behind this one. So what do? I'm over here, slide down, arrange, bring the front. There we go. So that's what we're doing. We're placing images. So again, to get the images that are missing, you go to your examples layer, you go to File, Place, you find example 1, 2, and 3, you grab those, 1, 2, and 3. I'm holding down Shift again, Place, then I click 1, 2, and 3. You can grab all those. To resize them, to make them manageable, hold down Shift. You can move them all around as a group. This is all that practice to get to know, like, how do you work your artboard? And then resize as needed, and you're set. Now you can just go in, get the body copy where it needs to go, give it a good read, learn about Milton Glaser, world famous graphic designer. This one can go here. Make sure it's lining up. You know, make sure we got our things lined up. See how those are supposed to meet up? And we do our title. turn this exact copy off. Like, I don't need to see it. Double check my work. How's it all looking? Does it look perfecto? Delete all this stuff, right? Don't need this. There we go. And then I go to File, Save As, and I save my Illustrator file. And then I go to File, Save As. I'm going to save on my computer. Here, I'm going to choose PDF. Making sure I'm not over-saving something. I'm going to hit Save. It can be small as file size. I'm going to make sure View PDF after saving is turned on. I'm going to check my marks and bleeds and make sure nothing is turned on. This is all in the instructions. And I'm going to hit Save PDF. Boom, there it is. I'm going to look at it and make sure everything is lined up. And then I'm going to upload it to my assignment to make sure I have it correct. Any questions, comments, or concerns about the design practice?
No.
All right. Well, great. Hope you enjoyed learning about form today. As I've mentioned, make sure end of the day today, all of session 1's work is due. Please turn it in by midnight, by 11:59 p.m. That's when it needs to be turned in. I will be checking on to make sure if you have questions throughout the day until a little bit. I don't check after a certain time. I'll try to, but start working on things now if you think you're gonna have questions at 10 o'clock at night when I'm sleeping. So, all right, wonderful. Thank you very much. And if you need a refresher on this, I will get the video up as soon as I can. And it'll be in session 3 for form. All right. Thank you very much. If I don't talk to you on the discussion boards later today or tomorrow, I'll see you on Thursday and we'll talk about color. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.